Hi, you lousy kids. It is late Thursday night on the 27th and March the 27th of 2025. I just got back a few hours ago from seeing a working man. Took a few hours to compose my thoughts, and I just wanted to get a quick review out there. Nothing with any pictures or anything like that because that would take time. I just want to get this out there to let you know it is definitely worth the money, which is saying something given that my tickets cost $16 a piece. I had no idea that they had gone up so much. I guess that tells you I haven't been in a theater in a while. But this movie I see, it's Jason Statham. He is the star of it. David Ayer is the director. I hope David. I'm pretty sure it's David Ayer. If I get that wrong, sorry. He is the guy who did the first Suicide Squad movie, which we won't hold against him because it was heavily messed with, of course, by the studio. And and he also did The Beekeeper with Jason Statham, and those two movies, that movie and A Working Man, are kind of similar in that it's former military guy gets into a whole bunch of underworld violence because of a threat to a friend. Before we go any further, I should just say I'm obviously in. I got to do full disclosure thing because I know Chuck Dixon, the writer of the novel that this is adapted from. That's not really a secret. It's not something I talk about much, but I do. Um, I go through his books and I look for all the things that spell check cannot catch, and usually find some things here and there in every book. So he thanks me in the front of the book. So it's not a secret. It's not something, it's not a big deal, but obviously I'm partial to Chuck Dixon. That's how I got involved in this. I mean, I like his work. So I like the Levon Cade novels. It's interesting. Chuck says Levon, and that is how it's pronounced in the song by Elton John, but in the movie, leaven, like leavened bread. So it could just be the British way of saying it, although Elton John is British. I don't know. So Chuck says Levon. In the movie, it's Levin. So they didn't call it Levon Cade, they called it A Working Man. And as the first installment in what could be a series, that's an interesting title. I don't know how you do a Working Man 2, a Working Man 3 when he's not working. In this movie, he starts out working as construction, and then when the boss's daughter gets kidnapped, the boss says, "Hey, can you go find my daughter?" That's what this movie's about. I think you know that just from the trailer. The boss is Michael Pena, who we all love, of course, so that's good casting. And I would have liked to have seen a little more of him here and there, but it's pretty good. The thing that you've probably seen in the trailers too, I don't think I'm giving away any spoilers here, is that we just see Levon working on construction until one of his workers is harassed by, we assume, a loan shark or something. And Levon, I'm gonna say Levon. That's how I've been calling him. Sorry. It's Levin in the movie, but he only says it like once or twice. So anyway, Levon goes in, knocks five guys about, and gets them all to leave. And this is just a little writing quibble. It really doesn't do anything except introduce us to the fact that Levon is pretty deadly. But it would have been better if Michael Pena's character had seen this instead of his daughter in the movie, because it makes kind of a bonding moment that the daughter saw this and knows what Levon does. But it would be better if Michael Pena saw it, and that's why he knows that later he can turn to Levon as a violent guy who will get things done. That's just, that's a little quibble. That is not a huge flaw in the writing, obviously. It's just I would have done it differently, but I didn't write it. So, I've read the book a long time ago. I meant to reread it before the movie came out, but I knew that if I did, I would probably be more, all these things would be fresh in my mind, and then I'd be more nitpicky about all the differences. Because there's a lot of differences. What happened was that Chuck Dixon wrote this book a long time ago as he became acquainted with Sylvester Stallone through various Expendables things. He was brought in to pitch for the Expendables 2. Then they didn't use him for that, but Sylvester Stallone wanted to talk with him about other projects they've done. They did some comic books together. One of them's still coming out, the Rambo, and he also did the Expendables Go to Hell. He did the Expendables just a comic book tie-in, and that's how he read Sylvester Stallone's script and then got involved with Stallone. So, anyway, I have to say, Stallone adapts his book. There's the framework is there, the heart is there. Chuck is actually very happy with the adaptation, and that's not something you hear too often. Usually, you send off your baby and they just butcher it. the For instance, one of my favorite books is The House with a Clock on Its Walls. You know what? I got it right here. This is how much of a favorite book of mine it is. The House with a Clock on Its Walls. I love this book. They made a movie of it with Jack Black. Bad casting. Bad casting all around. Every person in it is bad cast in The House with a Clock on Its Walls. They don't get the mood, they don't get the feel of it. They keep out the best parts of the book are not even in there. And so, that's what Hollywood usually does. With Chuck's book, there's a lot of changes, and yet it doesn't really deviate from the basic framework of the idea. It doesn't change Levon's character. It doesn't change too many characters. I think it changes the daughter. It makes her a little tougher. Although I have not read the book in a long time. Maybe I'm forgetting some things. But if you want to know how to write a tough girl who isn't a girl boss, who isn't like beating up 6'5", 300-pound guys, this is how to do it. This is a good example of a girl who's not a little waif who can't do anything. She's doing her best to take care of herself because she has no idea that anyone is coming to help her, and at the same time, she still needs rescuing. This is a great example, and I attribute some of that to Stallone, I think, or maybe it's Ayer, because David Ayer also co-wrote the adaptation, but I believe Sylvester Stallone did the first adaptation. David Ayer probably threw stuff in because it's his movie. But like I say, the heart of Levon Cade is there. The structure's there. They didn't throw out his daughter or anything who needs to be there. Levon Cade's daughter, who is essential to the series. And they want this to be a series. Jason Statham is looking for a series. So if it's successful, it could lead to a series. I don't see how it could not be successful because last weekend, the awful Snow White movie that everybody knew was going to be a disappointment came out, and it is number one at the box office last weekend. So this weekend, here's a really good movie. I mean, this is a good movie. I was complaining that, I'm spending $32, which is more than I will spend to own it and have it on Blu-ray and be able to play it and watch the subtitles, which frankly I need at this point. I'm sorry, we've got Russian mobsters, we've got Southerners, and we've got Jason Statham, who is British, and sometimes the accents all around. I'm like, what are they? I don't know, and there's one guy who I didn't look this up on IMDb. Again, I did no prep for this. I'm just talking to you guys. I don't know the actor. I don't know the character. There is a black guy who is a drug dealer, kind of a drug lord that they bring him to. He's surrounded by a whole room full of people that Levon successfully takes down, and then the guy reveals that he's airborne and that he's former airborne, so they kind of recognize each other. And that's why a working man, he's the one who says, you're a working man. I'm sorry to call him a black guy. I honestly don't know that they ever say his name. I didn't catch a name for him. If they said it, again, it might be something that I missed because I don't have subtitles going. I'm a person who's pretty much addicted to subtitles at this point, just to be able to understand some stuff that's hard to hear. This is a very noisy movie, as you might imagine. There's lots of background music. There's lots of sound effects and explosions and things like that. And it's really hard hearing sometimes. Not for this movie in particular, but for all movies at this point. I'm a 55-year-old guy. I need subtitles at sometimes. So, I will be happy to buy this on Blu-ray when it comes out, but I don't want you to wait for the Blu-ray. Please go see it in the theaters, because if everybody waits for the Blu-ray or waits for it on streaming, there won't be a sequel, and there should be. I'm not going to give any real spoilers if I can help it, but I don't think I'm ruining anything if you've read the book, just to say that the ending of the movie is different from the book, only in that they want to kind of bring it to a close, just in case there is no sequel, in case there is no series that spawns from this. They want to have a ending that feels more fulfilling, whereas if it ended with Jason Statham on the run, as the book ends with him on the run, because that leads into the whole series. I'm not giving away anything there, in that what happens is that Levon Cade in the book goes on this hunt for the captured girl, and it basically ruins his life, because they find out who he is, they go after him and his family and his loved ones, and he has to take his daughter, who lives with her grandparents, and take her on the run. And that's what the series is about. And really, I recommend the books, obviously, because I would love to see you support Chuck by reading the books. But really, if you like action books, like kind of like Kurt Schlichter's books, if you've read them, or Reacher. It gets a lot of comparisons to Reacher, because it's a former military guy who just wanders around getting in trouble. And Chuck has not read any Reacher books or seen the TV show, even though everybody's like, "Oh, you would love this." He doesn't want to absorb even unintentionally anything from there and be accused of ripping anything off. Even though he'd probably love it, he's never seen it. But everybody else is like writing on his book, if you like Reacher, read this. So that's kind of weird, because he's never read Reacher. But if you like Jack Reacher, if you like John Wick, it's not quite the same as John Wick, but John Wick is over, and the Reacher show just did yesterday. So if you're looking for an action thing to kind of fill that gap, this is a great movie for that. And like I say, it closes in a way that can be final, but it also ends with a little cliffhanger sort of thing. Not even a cliffhanger. There's a guy who really wants Levon Cade dead, and is told, no, don't go after him. And all you have to do for part 2 is say, no, I'm going to go after him. That's all you have to do. And you're back on the path of that. So I don't think I'm giving anything away by saying that. Go see this movie. I think it's really wonderful. I hope I would say that even if I wasn't like, the whole full disclosure thing, that I actually know Chuck a little bit. I've never been to his house. I've met him probably 5 times in person, always at conventions. So I'm not like a great friend of his, but he knows me, obviously, and we talk online. Everybody talks online, though, and I've talked online with a bunch of authors. I'm not good friends with them, so I am with Chuck, though, and I would really love to see this succeed, but I'm not like I'm not lying to you because I like Chuck. I loved this movie. My wife loved this movie. I went past a couple in the theater and they said, "You have good taste," just because we were going to see this, and And I said, "Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I have no idea what their story is, why they liked it, but they loved it at the end." What else is there to say about it? I have to say, um, I always thought that Stallone became a screenwriter because he was an actor who was feeling dissatisfied with the parts that he was being offered, so he felt like he had to be a screenwriter. But I think he's an underappreciated screenwriter. This he hits all the right stuff. I mean, he takes Chuck's book and makes it work for video, for the film, for being on screen. He does what he needs to do to adapt it. There's a lot more punch 'em up action at the end. It kind of builds to a big action packed ending. Um, whereas I kind of think that the Levon Cade book was a little more quiet revenge type thing, but this leads up to a big confrontation, and it all makes sense. There's the one thing that doesn't make sense to me, and I think it's just a character thing, is why isn't Levon Cade wearing a mask? Obviously we don't mean for him to be a vigilante, but he's going into places that have cameras, and this is going to wreck his life because everybody has facial recognition nowadays. They're going to know who he is, and he doesn't wear a mask, and he doesn't like go in and block the cameras or anything. So kind of, I think it's just more of his bull in a china shop attitude that this is how he approaches things. He just charges in, and he doesn't charge in. He's actually a very good detective, and that comes across. But then once it's time to take action, to get some answers from people, he just goes in and does it, and he isn't blacking out his face with a mask or any kind of obstruction or anything like that. He just goes, and he is obviously going to pay the price for it. So I think it's just a character thing. I think you just have to accept that he's decided that this is how he's going to approach it. Um, the That's like the only real problem that I have, and obviously it's a problem with the book, but it's more of a problem when you actually see it on screen, and you're like, why isn't he doing something about this? He's on camera from every angle, and uh, it's just it really does. It's part of his character. That's all I can say. That comes across. Um, One thing that's interesting is the little hints of Christianity, that it's not a big thing, but at one point he is wearing a shirt that has writing on the back, and you can't really see it much. But then Levon Cade turns around and it says PRO 111. So it's Proverbs 111 is, I guess, what's written on the back. Again, I didn't even look it up before I wrote this review, but uh, I don't know what it means or what connotation it has. But there's also a scene where he's like getting ready for bed. He's been forced to actually get a place to sleep because he sleeps in his car just to afford the money to take on the court case to get to get his daughter. He's fighting for custody of his daughter, and the only way he does it is to not live anywhere and use all his money towards that. So he lives in his car and he eats peanut butter and tuna, as they say. And the family that he works for kind of takes care of him, and they give him food because otherwise he'd just be eating peanut butter. And so that kind of gives, it's just little stuff like that gives you the character of the guy. And then somebody points out, you're going to have a hard time getting custody. It's his lawyers who say you're going to have a hard time getting custody if you don't have a residence. And so he gets the crappiest hotel residence just to have an address that he's living at. And the mattress, he unrolls the mattress. It's the most hideous mattress you've ever seen. Nobody wants to sleep on that. And for just a second, he kind of you get the idea that he's just about to like pray before he goes to sleep, and it cuts away from that. But he's the Proverbs shirt. He's also, he's trying to maintain control of himself. He's being a good family man for a guy who has a lot of PTSD and is trying to put his violent past behind him. And it, like I say, this gets a lot of characterization in just a couple short hours. And I suppose we shouldn't be astonished by that, except that it's something you see less and less in movies that nowadays. This is a really good start to hopefully a series, and I hope you check out A Working Man. I loved it. My wife loved it. I think it's a better time at the movies than I've had in a while, and it's definitely with the Dolby Atmos thing where you have all the speakers around you. That's going to be kind of overwhelming. My wife wishes she had her earplugs, but I was fine with it. The the opening construction scenes, there's like a different sound, a different construction sound from every little speaker around you, and it just feels like you're in the middle of it. It's pretty good surround sound. Just one thing that you won't get if you watch it later at home, that's all. Thought I'd point that out. It is a good experience, a good movie experience, and I think that's probably about it. I think I touched all the topics. The main thing, Stallone deserves better credit as a writer than he gets. He really does. This is as a creator and a writer, as somebody who recognized this book and said this could make a really good project and has pushed it along for a number of years now. He was going to do a TV show back when, probably when the streaming services were throwing money at everything. They were going to turn this into a series, and then I think it didn't come to pass, and then they said, let's do a movie. And let's do Jason Statham. Oh, that was the other thing. Jason Statham. If you've read the books, Levon Cade is from Alabama, and that's not so important. But later in the series, Levon Cade actually goes home to his kin. The book is actually called Levon's Kin. He goes back to, is it his dad or his grandpa? I can't even remember now. Uh, Moonshiners, and all these books are about like moonshining and the hill people, and uh, it's it's going to be a little difficult to adapt those. But one thing that they did that Chuck pointed out was, Chuck. This was something he talked about in Ask Chuck Dixon from last week, I think, uh, when asked about, writing minority characters. He pointed out that Gunny, who is a major character in his books, is actually black, and for the movie they made him a white guy. He said they actually did the reverse race swap. But that actually could be a way to lead into the whole Alabama thing, because maybe it's Gunny's family that Levon Cade goes to, and they would find some way to incorporate that if they do the books. They may not even adapt all the books, story for story. They may just pick out the best story they want. There's some stories that are really intense. If you read the whole series, there's several that he goes after, you know, children who have been captured for nefarious purposes, and I don't think I need to say any more than that. I don't want to run afoul of YouTube, but it's it's pretty amazing the books that what they get into. Uh, so I really hope that this does become a series, and best of luck to you, Chuck and Jason and Sylvester, because you deserve it. You deserve for this to be a big winner. I hope it is. And I'm just saying that not as a booster, but as somebody who really enjoyed watching the movie tonight. So if you're out there, please consider going to it this weekend. Just take out a little small home loan, and then you can have the popcorn and the soda. Thank you. Bye.